Hello guys, welcome back. Today we're doing an update to our Serena builds, something slightly vital change to our old Wall Crusher build and a patch a few weeks ago. So we'll be looking at that and changing the build. Also big thanks to members of the community like Barb and Siler for helping work out the build. Links to their videos will be in the description. We will be doing a very comfortable build for the new Abyss Colossus Lava Citadel. Great for farming vouchers. I was doing it all day yesterday. And then our mobbing build that is meta for all content, Purge, Axiom Planes, and even quick solo runs of the new Void Vessel dungeon. Alright, enough yapping, let's get into it. The patch on September 18th under Descendant changes stated, fixed an issue where Serena's Hymn of Vitality effect was being displayed repeatedly when using skills while the hymn module was equipped. What exactly does this mean? Because in my opinion, the wording is horrible here. So when we had him equipped and it used our dash second ability around group members, we were able to proc certain mods like Passionate Sponsor and Multi-Circulation on our Excava or our Ancient Knight. This is no longer the case. The only way to activate these mods that proc from using a buff or recovery skill is from using our first ability, Sacred Flame, and directly hitting a group member with it. Something I tried many times in Wall Crasher, sounds a lot easier than it is in practice, and you also end up wasting time mid-fight trying to pull this off while you're searching for a teammate, and it's most likely a Serena dashing through the air like a mosquito, and you're not even going to hit them. So what's the solution? We are switching weapons and switching our Descendant modules to a build that no longer depends on these. And we're going to get straight into that with the Wall Crasher build. We are using RK Leak for our trigger mod. I'm sorry, I'm in the way, my big fat head. But we're using RK Leak here for the skill cost. That is all we are getting out of this trigger module. Definitely the best option for her here. We are no longer using him because it is going to be a waste of our MP. If we do put that in, we do not benefit from it. Now, as far as our mods, we are doing an overwhelming HP setup here. So we're using 2 HP mods with increased shield. This is going to get us around 37k HP with the extra from our components and then from our RK tuning and so on. We are using multi-talented, very, very important with Serena. When you're using multi-talented, you always want to use her fourth ability or her second ability before you use any other. This way, you can proc the cooldown from using the dimension. So simply what I do is jump in the air, use my fourth, pull out my wings, and now I'm free for the rest of the fight to dash or use my fourth again. We are using Maximize Duration to up the duration on our fourth ability. We have 2 cooldown mods here, MP Conversion and Nimble Fingers. When we mix that with Multi-Talented, it is more than enough. Then we are using 2 skill cost mods here, being Strong Mentality and Maximize Conservation. I will say Maximize Conservation is a must. Strong Mentality, if you are confident that the fight is going to be very fast, you could simply take this out and put in something like Shot Focus. Now, for our reactor, cooldown, duration, boom, that's all we need. And for our set, this is very, very important. You must have these in these slots that I have them. If you put an ascending piece at the bottom, you are not going to get the same HP that I am getting. So please be aware of that. And please also have your MP stats in your substats and your HP cores in all of your pieces. We'll scroll through these quickly and be aware that I have maxed out gold MP stats on all of my pieces. Very, very important. Now for our RK tuning, not really too much has changed here. We are still building into multi-hit and grabbing our multi-hit capstone. We are still building into firearm attack and grabbing defense neutralization for our mutant cell. And then we are still grabbing our 2 HP nodes down at the bottom. For your inversion reinforcement, make sure you have toxic focus rounds on. We're using Python. We are building this 2 toxic, and it is inherently toxic as well. And then our 2 inversion reinforcements that never change for Serena, strike point amplification, and firearm control mechanism. Now, let's look at our Python. For your cores, you want toxic attack for your free slot, firearm attack, and then 1 fire rate core. And then for your yellow cores, this is kind of just quality of life. You can do hip fire accuracy, aim shot accuracy, whatever you're comfortable with. And then for your substats, you for sure do want toxic, weak point damage, multi-hit damage, and multi-hit chance. Now into our module setup, this is not too different from most of the guns we're building for Serena for multi-hit. We are using multi-hit induction. We have our 2 firearm attack mods, our 2 weak point mods, our 2 multi-hit chance and multi-hit damage mods, a expand weapon charge, which is very, very important, or you will just be constantly dashing the entire fight. You will be losing damage if you do try to do that, and maybe try to slot in another damage mod here. Then we have our element with toxic enhancement, and of course our fire rate mod. Now, I do still carry my Wave of Light with me. If you know, with Wave of Light, when you reload the gun, you crit, and with Serena, when you are mid-air with her second ability. Now, I do still carry my Wave of Light with me. Not really needed anymore on this build because the skill cost is just insane. Just in the showcase at the beginning of the video, you've seen that I did not use it, did use it once, and that was over a minute of a wall crusher fight. And normally something like Excava and Ancient Knight setup, we were having to use this. The thing with Wave of Light is when you reload, you get 100% crit chance. So you pull out your Wave of Light, you then dash in midair. And what this is going to proc is on Serena's Ascension. This is an impact around weapon. You're going to proc the critical hit MP recovery. So dash, few shots of Wave of Light, your MP is back up to max. So let's look over what we have on here. Fire rate is the most important thing. Firearm attack. You don't really have to build this. This gun is actually a mess. But if you would like to just copy what I'm using, go ahead. Now we're going to go over our Abyss build. This is going to be the same exact module setup that we are running in Wally. I have built this with skill cost and ammo in mind. I do know there's speed runs that are very, very fast, but these are very, very RNG to get to happen. And when you do not get them to happen, you are then stuck with no ammo, no MP, running on the ground, trying to kill mobs, and probably just resetting. So we're not building this build for that. We're building this build for a minute 10-second to a minute 40-second completions. Doesn't take much to get it done. So that's going to be the mods. The components and the reactor are going to be exactly the same here, and so is our arcade tuning. But instead of going on the left here, we're coming up on the right. We're having to drop a little bit of multi-hit, but we want to come get this critical hit rate and critical hit damage for our last dagger, and we're still using defense neutralization. Our inversion reinforcement, the same. We're just making sure you have chill focus rounds on. Don't be like me. I played for like 10 minutes and couldn't figure out what was happening. Didn't have chill focus rounds on. So let's talk about our weapons. And yes, I do have 3 last daggers on. The first 2 are going to be very similar with one slight difference, which is helping us get through the fight ammo wise. But these are pretty normal last daggers that we've been running. Now, what's happening here is I have Tenacious Hunter and Firing Fiesta not fully ranked up in this last dagger, but in this one I do. What this does is allows us to proc both of these before the cooldown is over. And if you do this setup right for this build, you will not run out of ammo. There's really not much to the cooldowns and thinking about it. I will show that when I'm done going over this build. The third last dagger I have simply built into a little more mag here, and we're not depending on Firing Fiesta or the other mod. We're building this one a little bit different. It still does very good damage. So, I know what a lot of you are thinking. 3 last daggers? What are you, crazy? Well, I understand that, and I'm assuming most people do have 2 last daggers at this point. So I would like to throw out that a third option here is going to be an Albion Cavalry instead of the third dagger. This is going to get the job done pretty much just as well. I did many, many runs testing this just to make sure so I could suggest it, and this is going to be the setup that we're going to with that. Now, let's go over our mobbing build, which could be used in Axion, Void Vessel, Purge, one of the best builds in the game, 100%. We are using him here. We are using MP Collector, multi-talented, 2 duration mods. We're going to have a range mod in that is for the damage coming off of our 4th ability with our launcher or our gun. We have our 2 HP mods, our 2 cooldown mods. Reactor, still the same, cooldown duration up. If you're a solo, you're going to want to use the 4-piece ascending set. This is not only going to help you with skill cost, but this is also going to help you with ammo. Make sure you have your MP substats and your HP cores on all of these. Now, with your RK tuning, very similar to a setup that I showed earlier, the exact same. In fact, the Mutant Cell is going to be defense neutralization for this. Then for our inversion reinforcement, What do you know? It's the same strike point amp, firearm control mechanism, and then whatever focus rounds match to with your running. Now, I am slightly leaning towards the new Void Vessel here, so I have a Toxic Restored Relic on. If you're running Purge, use a Chill. If I'm farming an Axion, I also still use a Chill as well. Then we're using this build here. We have swapped out one range mod for the solo Void Vessel farming, and then we have our Toxic Enhancement. Then if I'm doing something like Purge and Axion, I'm going to take out the Veil Analyzer, and I'm going to put in ammo optimization for rounds per magazine, and then our explosion radius, and of course we're going to have our Chill Enhancement. Now we're going to have our Albion Cavalry. Just overall, such a good gun. If you're an Axion, destroys the ships, rips the bosses. The new Void Vessel boss does not stand a chance against this solo or in a group. Similar to the one I showed as an option for our new Abyss Colossus for the third weapon. We're running pretty much the same setup here, but this is going to be built less into weak point and hitting headshots and more into just critting. So that's why we have Edging Shot on here. Then I'll show our dagger, just in case anybody needs to build. Same dagger we've been running for, almost a year at this point. Double fire rate on the cores is very important, and this is going to be our normal setup for absolutely murking Greg. And that covers everything for our updated Serena builds. Any questions or suggestions about the builds, let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe is appreciated. Thanks, guys. Peace.